Why study real estate? In short, real estate professionals are professionals with impact. The activities of real estate professionals are fundamental to our economic and social development and impact the lives of countless individuals on a daily basis. They contribute to the well-being of society through the development of places to live, work, and play in. They foster enterprise and economic competitiveness through the provision of spaces to produce goods and services in. They shape land use at scales from local to global to meet the future needs of communities and businesses. They provide financial analysis and investment advice on the world's largest asset class, which is real estate. They're at the forefront of debate and action on climate change and sustainability. My name is Professor Eamon Darcy. I'm Professor of International Real Estate, and over the past 30 years, I've contributed to the education and development of numerous real estate professionals. At the Henley Business School, University of Reading, we offer a world-class postgraduate real estate education, which will unlock your potential and allow you to embark on a career that can positively impact the world we live in. Over the last half century, we've become a global leader in postgraduate education for the real estate profession through programs that combine cutting-edge research with practical insight. Study with us and join our global community of current and future real estate professionals. The video is much quicker than me doing it in person, and hopefully gives you some ideas as to why you might want to study real estate, not just at Henley Business School, but anywhere in the world, to become a professional with impact. Very quickly, we're a global market leader in real estate education and research. The RICS told me very recently that if you combine us in the Henley Business School Department of Real Estate and Planning with our colleagues in the Department of Construction Management and Engineering, which is in our Built Environment School, we are the largest single university provider of graduates who go on to RICS membership in the world, which is an interesting fact that I didn't know till recently. In real estate and planning, we currently have about 700 students studying our programs, both undergraduate and postgraduate. And another part of being with us is not just getting your accreditation from professional institutions such as the RICS, but more importantly, you become part of the Reading network. And currently we have 12,000 alumni working globally in the real estate sector, and there may be, I'm guessing, some of them in this room as well who've attended Reading at some stage in their career. Most importantly, I wanted to touch on our African Scholarship Program, which we started in 2012 at the Afres meeting in Accra. And again, I'm very glad to say we're continuing this. We offer 6 full fee waiver scholarships for MSc Real Estate and MSc Real Estate Finance programs. It's very competitive. We had 85 applications this year for 6 spots, and 45 of those applicants had first-class honors degrees from great institutions across the continent. So it is very competitive, mainly because the standard of applicants we get from Africa is incredibly high. So currently, I think we have nearly 60 African scholars we've produced, and some of those have gone on to do the PhD with us in Reading. Closing date, May 1st, and hopefully these slides can be distributed to everybody. The link is on the slide in terms of how to apply. As I said this morning, I thought I'd do a little bit of value added, other than just talking about Henley, because it's always good to give something back. And I wanted to touch on the whole topic of digitally enabled learning. And this is increasingly part of what we do as real estate educators. And what I wanted to do was to give you some ideas with respect to how you might use some of this in your classroom to enhance the student learning experience. Is to think about where we use digitally enabled learning in practice. And certainly, a lot of us, particularly post-COVID, have been using a lot of the before, giving students access to materials before they arrive with us, or before they engage in a particular class. There's also quite a lot of scope for synchronous use of digitally enabled learning, and that's about the teaching itself. So it's preparation, teaching, and the last part is having the resources so the students can go back after they've had the class to consolidate their learning experience. And I think we need to remember, one of the speakers this morning touched on Gen Z. Gen Z everywhere, Africa included, are visual learners. They're not people who read textbooks, as we've discovered. Most of our students would rather do anything other than buy a textbook these days, which is sad in some ways, but it reflects the reality of how they assimilate information. This is the group of kids who've been watching YouTube since the age of 2 in some cases, probably 4. It's the generation which you saw at age 8 carrying a tablet around with it permanently, and then the smartphone and so on. So we have to sort of meet them halfway in terms of enhancing their learning experience. So I want to give you some quick illustrations from what we use in class at Henley to give you some ideas of how you might use these resources yourself to enhance the student learning experience and to get your students to engage, because that's the big problem with Gen Z. It's there, maybe in class, but you don't really know whether it's looking at the lecture or whether it's looking at something else on its smartphone at that point in time. We've had a lot of success using TED Talks, which are free. Anybody can use TED Talks. There's lots of bad TED Talks out there. You have to be very careful to curate your TED Talks. And as you can see, I use one from probably, I was going to say, the continent's most famous author, our Nigerian friend. But again, as I said, we use TED Talks from a variety of speakers, and you might wonder if I were using a very famous storyteller in the context of real estate. It's great because she's telling the story of unconscious bias, which is a big, big issue in the real estate sector. We use online resources. We teach ethics. There's a wonderful resource based at the University of Texas at Austin, which is free to anybody to use who's teaching ethics. We'd probably use, I'd say, 10% of the resource. It's there, the link is there, anybody can use it in the classroom. And again, we've had very positive reaction from our students. Corporates increasingly produce a lot of very usable content. This one is on inclusion, which we use as part of our welcome week to tell the students to speak to each other, because this Gen Z group has to be told that, because they've been in bedrooms too long on tablets or something. So their social skills are not what the previous generation were. So again, resources for corporates. A lot of the real estate corporates produce great resources, JLL in particular. There are 10-minute quarterly global updates available on YouTube, free, great if you're teaching property market analysis. We use various types of interactive software in class to get students to tell us things. They love this. This is Mentimeter. You can use Padlet. There's lots and lots of these. We teach a class on values and ethics. If you ask the students what your 3 deepest values, you get no answers because nobody wants to tell you. But if it's anonymous and you could do it online, you get something like this, which is quite positive in terms of the values which are listed there. Another example of this, I remember in the days before interactive learning, I used to ask the students, how would you characterize yourself as an idealist, a pragmatist, or an opportunist? And you know what? Before I had Mentimeter, I had no opportunists in a real estate class. So no future property developers, no risky investors don't exist. Since I introduced technology, I now know that on average, about 40% of my real estate class are opportunists. It's probably about right. 40% pragmatists, and unfortunately, real estate only attracts 20% idealists. So again, it's amazing what you can find out. We also do this in terms of discrimination. And again, you get a lot of information back that you wouldn't get otherwise. I talked about this last year, and again, I can make the resource available. This is our onboarding materials, which we worked with a company called Blended Teaching on, and again, we've given some examples of this at previous Afres meetings. What I want to get to, in terms of the freebie for today, is developing a FutureLearn course. And FutureLearn is this platform whereby you set up a course and people can self-study it. We set up a course to try and recruit the next generation of real estate and planning professionals. And FutureLearn is always about asking a question. That's how all FutureLearn courses are set up. And the question we're asking is why real estate and planning professionals can be considered as professionals with the potential to impact the lives of countless individuals. We all know that in this room because we're in real estate, but a lot of people out there don't know that. And particularly this current generation likes to embark on a career which is doing good, which is giving something back. So it's a slightly different pitch as to why you might want to study real estate, a bit like the video. There's a 2-week course. The first bit is about spaces, places, and key concepts. There's also urban planning in this. It's slightly UK-centric in places, but there is nothing to stop any educator in this room taking this content and redeveloping it as a FutureLearn course for Africa. Because maybe this is something for Afres to do. I'm very happy to make the scripts available. There's nothing hidden here. But we cover basic things. What's real estate? What's planning? What do real estate and planning professionals actually do? We talk about creating places to live, work, and play, how space is used, real estate as an asset class, and how space is developed. And we have a number of case studies, including, indeed, an international case study of Lisbon. And again, week 2 is about the external influences. I talked in the masterclass yesterday about global megatrends, and we focus in the course on sustainability, technology, ethical behaviors, and professionalism. And lastly, we also focus on careers with some insights from our alumni. And if you're interested, here's the QR code. It's an invitation to take part in the course. Again, I can make this available if we can get the slides out to our participants, which hopefully we might manage. And you can access the course for free. But I think there's an idea I'm trying to nurture this morning of creating a fundamentals of real estate and indeed planning that's suitable for the African continent. FutureLearn will host. You buy a license. Any of the universities probably here have licenses for FutureLearn, and you buy a number of slots, and FutureLearn hosts your course, and then it's free to the public. But feel free to use the resource. And that's it from me.
Thank you very much. Professor Eamon Darcy from the Henley Business School, University of Reading, one of our platinum sponsors for this conference. We move on to another yet important platinum sponsor, that is IREBS. And to give us a message, we'd like to introduce Professor Jonas Hahn from IREBS, University of Joburg. Please have your audience.
I've been professor of investment and finance at the European Business School, which is based in Germany, and one day I discovered real estate as a discipline. And at the end of the day, I became the first professor of real estate, not only in Germany, but in continental Europe. And and now I have 17 PhD graduates who are professors now. So it's a big school. I like Africa very, very much. I've been to Zambia at least 4 times. The first was, I think, 2007. This conference was in Zambia, in Livingston. And I was there. And then I was on a train from Dar es Salaam to Cape Town, passing Zambia. Then I was on a train last year, crossing Africa from west to east, starting in Angola and then DRC, Zambia, and Tanzania. And this is now my 4th time. And from here I go to Malawi, Mozambique, and Eswatini, and then go home. So in total I've already traveled 23 countries of Africa. And I plan in next spring 10 more in West Africa. So, I'm 78 years old, so still going strong. So let me just see the next slide. I just want to introduce the International Real Estate Business School, IREBS, and I founded the International Real Estate Business School in 2006 because I was no longer in love with the European Business School and wanted to start something new. So the IREBS is part of the Faculty of Business, Economics and Management Information Systems of the University of Regensburg in Germany. Regensburg is a very remarkable small university city. It's in fact a medieval city which has never been destroyed, not even in the Second World War. And the old city is UNESCO World Heritage. So if you once visit Germany, please have a look. It's really worth it. So within IREBS, we have two separate units. The first unit is the Real Estate Institute. And this institute only offers education for the typical young students going to universities. So we have a Bachelor of Science in Real Estate degree, a 3-year program, and a Master of Science in Real Estate, which is a 2-year program. And it's in a way internationally unique because we offer our students not only two years in Regensburg at our university, they also have a choice to spend half a year plus another half a year at a foreign university. For example, Reading in the US, in Australia, everywhere. And they can even go for 1 year, for example, to Reading and earn a Master of Science in Real Estate. So at the end of the day, for example, one of my sons has a Master of Science in Real Estate from Regensburg and one from Reading. And then we also have RSCS accreditation. So it's a very attractive program. Of course, we have PhD programs also in real estate. So by now I have graduated about 80 or 90 in PhD in real estate. So this is one part. The other part is the Real Estate Academy. It's separated from the university legally. It's only for executive education. And we avoid the word postgraduate because executive means our students are all full employed, parallel to their job, and have already a university degree, and the average age is about 33 or so. And therefore we call it executive education. And then we have diplomas in different specializations like shopping center management, corporate real estate management, real estate investment analysis, and so forth and so forth. So this is what we are doing. There's a new ranking just being published of universities worldwide. And in this ranking, we are number 1 in Germany. We are now, sorry to say that, Eamon, we are now ranked number 1 in Europe. But we are not only personal friends, we also cooperate because for the grants you give African students, we cooperate because living costs in the UK are very expensive. So we pay part of the living costs for students who give a grant. So we have a very good cooperation. But of course we are proud now that in this list we are number 1 in Europe and in the world number 6, which is quite a good development, I think. We are, I think, the only university outside Africa which has 2 units just specializing on Africa. So we have the IREBS Foundation for African Real Estate Research, which sponsors this conference since 2 decades or so. We collect money from mainly private persons or owner-occupied companies, and we have a certain budget, and then we can he will tell more about it later. We can give grants and so on. And the other is the Competence Center for African Real Estate Research. We apply for offers which are published from governments doing research on certain topics with the focus on Africa. And then we try to cooperate with African universities once we can get the okay. So that's in brief what is IREPS. And now Jonas will tell you about the foundation, what the foundation concretely does, and also the research center. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Yeah, as announced, I would like to dive a little deeper into our African-related activities. We have the IREPS Foundation for African Real Estate Research since 2010, so we will have an anniversary next year coming up, and our vision is that we create academic multipliers who help, in the long term to professionalize real estate and the real estate industry across the African continent. We proudly received the Corporate Leadership Award of Afres last year, so I put that picture up. Still very happy about it. So how do we, what are our offers? We basically have, I would say, 3 pillars of funding. The first pillar is individual funding that comprises travel grants to conferences for researchers to present their work. We have a total of 12 beneficiaries here at the Afres conference this year. So we are very happy to support PhD students usually to present their research to a broader audience. We sponsor the Afres Best Paper Awards with now 1,000 euros per award, and we would be happy to give them out during the gala dinner on Friday. And we also offer PhD study grants, tuition grants to people who want to do their PhD in an African real estate related topic. Another award that we are giving out is the Dr. Gisela Schulte Memorial Award for Women in African Real Estate. The idea was in 2019 when we created this award to acknowledge high quality research of women, other outstanding contributions. So this is not a research award alone. Maybe we have other outstanding contributions of women in African real estate research and even practice. So this could even be an industry award. And we will also give this out this year at the gala dinner with a little prize money. And also all women that contribute a paper to this conference this year will be considered for the next year's Dr. Gisela Schulte Memorial Award. It's in memory of Dr. Gisela Schulte, who passed away in 2019. And another award that we're giving out is focusing on affordable housing, because this is our own research topic at the Competence Center. And also we want to acknowledge activities here in Africa that try to find solutions around the problem of housing affordability. It might be a research contribution, but also this might be industrial contribution or anything that helps alleviating construction costs and increasing affordability of housing. Frank Dupuis is our sponsor, and the award comes with a prize money of 2,500 USD. Also, we're very proud to sponsor the Journal of African Real Estate Research, which has developed very nicely throughout the last years, and we are sponsoring it for the last years to provide a platform for researchers of any kind, young researchers as well, like PhD students, where they can publish African real estate related matters, because this is not possible in every journal. And still it's an important topic, so we are very happy to have this journal out. It's an open access journal, so retrieving the articles, citing the articles is quite easy, and it's published by the University of Cape Town, so this is also an important collaboration here. We do research ourselves as well. We have the IREPS Competence Center for African Real Estate. It's our scientific branch, so to say. We are involved in curricular teaching. We are having literature seminars every other year. We are supervising master thesis and also doctoral thesis in real estate matters. We are researching ourselves and publishing ourselves, and we are also receiving institutions for exchange. So if any PhD student is interested in maybe spending 3 to 6 months in Germany with a DAAD grant, we are a possible receiving institution. Important players, Professor Dr. Karl-Werner Schulte, he's the academic director and founder. I myself, together with Stefan Bonewinkel, are co-heads. And we have Dr. Moses Kusiluka as a guest professor. He's from Tanzania. Dr. Sophia Kongela, she's also here today, is a visiting fellow, and also Anna Sophia as a research associate are helping. We can host students, and we are very welcome. And also we are, fundraising ourselves with research projects. So we are now currently preparing a grant application ourselves for third-party funding on affordable housing in Africa. And we will continue to do that in the future. So at any time when you're interested in cooperating on a research project, you have an idea, we will try to find funding together and we can apply together for that. And I will be happy to get in touch on that topic. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Mr. Christopher Mulenga will present a citation of appreciation to our platinum sponsors. Thank you very much, Henley Business School, and of course, IREFs, and to all other great sponsors that have partnered with us for this amazing conference. Be reminded that tomorrow we'll also dedicate more time for more acknowledgements to our wonderful sponsors.
So the next, what we're going to have is a panel, and the panel will be moderated by Professor Kola Akinsomi. Prof. Akinsomi is a prof at Wits University. He's also a director at Real Quaint, a consultancy. They do clever stuff that I don't know about. He's a director, and also he's a lead researcher in South Africa for the REITs SA, the real estate trusts, the listed funds as we call them. He's recently, I'm not sure because it's now about a year, was appointed to the editorial board of the American Real Estate Society, the journal, in terms of the board. Prof. Akinsomi, if you can come along, and you will introduce members of your panel. Ladies and gentlemen, a round of applause.
And welcome to the panel. It's the IRES. So IRES is the International Research Society, and IREPS Business School panel on affordable housing. Okay, so what I'll do now is just call on my colleagues who are on the panel to join me. First on the panel is Professor Arif Kayum from Iona University from the United States, New York. The next panelist is Anna Riesler from the IREP Center for African Research from Germany. Next on the panel is Mr. Adediran Adetunji from Diran Adetunji and Associates from Nigeria. And the last panelist is Mr. Don Wu, who is the CEO of the Africa Panorama Investment Group companies that are the developers of Emerald Hill, Zambia. Welcome. And what I'll just do at the moment is just to introduce and give you a bit of introduction. My name is Kola Akinsomi. I'm from Associate Professor at Wits University in Real Estate Finance and Investments. I'm currently representing the president of the International Real Estate Society, which is Professor Velma Zarovich Herbert from the University of Memphis. So how it works is that International Real Estate Society, over the year, from Australia to the US, to Europe, to Africa and Latin America, the president would tend to have a topic that she would like to discuss across each sister society. The president has chosen affordable housing, and so I'm standing basically for the president in order to chair this panel. Prof. Kayum is the inaugural appointed faculty member of Mario J. Gabelli Endowed Professorship in Finance at Iona University, and he teaches undergraduate and graduate courses in finance and real estate. Anna is a consultant at CSMM Architecture, Matters in Munich. She's also a research associate at the International Real Estate Business School. Mr. Adetunji is the CEO of Mrs. Adetunji and Associates. Is also a fellow of the Naives and a chartered member of the Royal Institute of Chartered Surveyor with over 16 years of experience. And finally, is the CEO of Africa Panorama Investment Group, Mr. Don Wu. He currently develops Emerald Hill Housing Project.
My name is Don. I'm from the Africa Panorama. We are the developer in Zambia right now. First, I want to share the one experience. Maybe you are wondering why I can share something with you, because I'm been in Africa around 12 years. About the affordable houses, I think this is a very tricky question. So first, I want to ask you a question: how much the house is affordable for you? I think it's a different person. You have the different answer. So how much the house is affordable? I think we learned a lot. I think especially 10 years ago. So we thought this house is affordable, but your local, they thought this is not affordable. Even right now, we are developing the Emerald Hill in Lusaka. So this is around 800 houses. For the whole project is a community. But from the beginning, because we have the experience in Africa, but we use a new model. I think on the table you have our brochure. So you will find this price is very low, but maybe you said, okay, it's still not affordable. But also the payment plan there. So we make it affordable, but you still feel not affordable. So this is very tricky for the developer. So what kind of the house and what the price you're going to sell will be affordable. So this one, like the Emerald Hill, but we still call this affordable. But based on our data, you will see in Lusaka, in Zambia, still our main clients is from the middle class above. So how you call this affordable? So this is why we find, but we thought we use the best model to develop this one, to make the house affordable, but it's still not. But we thought we try our best as the best. But then we find the problem, because we are the private sector. If you really want to make affordable houses, only you partnership with the government. Like the model is a public-private partnership. Why? Because for private sector, certain the costs you can't avoid. The first is the tax. Second, I think it's the infrastructure. So why we can make the Emerald Hill is lower, because of the certain costs that we have to spend it. For example, let me give an example. I think the road, power, water, suppose that this is the infrastructure. Suppose the government should do this, but there's no this condition there. So for the developer, you need to do everything by yourself. So the cost should be there. So you can't really lower this one. So the following year, after we develop this Emerald Hill, right now we partnership with the Ministry Infrastructure and Housing and the Urban Development, and also the National Housing Authority. We sign an agreement. Then we really calculate this one. We really can make the house affordable. So because the government is going to provide the land and the infrastructure, like a road, power, water. So the back services will be there. For the developer, you just invest directly about the construction cost. So this is the, we thought it affordable. This is why I said the affordable is a tricky thing. And also, for us, we developed a lot of the projects in different African countries. Actually, before I working in Zambia, I working in Uganda. I think we develop is very high end, but later, I think from the Zambia, we changed the mind. We find the majority people, they needed the affordable houses. This is very important. I think, but right now the majority developer, focus on the high end. Why? The high end housing projects have to make a lot of the profit. So affordable is a big challenge. So I think the best way is the public-private the partnership can provide the more affordable houses. It's really affordable for the more people they can afford it. They change their living condition.
Next, Mr. Diderot, opening remarks.
Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Diron Adetunji. The word affordable, just like my colleague has rightly mentioned, affordable housing. Particularly every one of us that are from this continent, we must recognize the fact that apart from the fact that accommodation is one of the three basic essentials of life, an African man, whichever way you want to coin it, your measure of success is intertwined with your ability to put a roof over your head and that of your family. So it's very key. And I was listening to one professor this morning. He said affordability is a moving target. That's a fact. But, and my colleague has rightly mentioned some of the inherent problems that are associated with affordability or affordable housing. It becomes part of just we are all discussing about sustainability now or climate change. Affordability of housing becomes that particular, you must join that mantras. But coming back home from Nigeria, a country of over 250 million people, and you recognize that government cannot house everybody. And in terms of people's purchasing power, the sustainability of the people, there are greater percentage of the people that cannot afford this housing. So what do? There are enormous government policies and regulations that have been put in place for government to mitigate or meet these people in between, midway, to be able to ensure the delivery of affordable housing in Nigeria. Some of the policies and regulations I'm going to discuss when we progress with this particular issue. But the affordability, just like what we said, is defined by United Nations, that it's kind of accommodation that should be able to, that should not take more than 30% of your gross income, and it must be such that people must live in an environment where they can be able to connect, be interconnected with all the facilities on around their places, children's schools, power supply, ability to interact socially with other people. So the word is loaded, and the need for each and every one of us to be inclusive in the delivery of this affordable housing is key. He had mentioned PPP. We know that will work, but when you are incorporating private partnership into an engagement, you must look at various underlying issues. Profit is at the end of their mind. Then why social services on the side of the government? So you have to find a way of marrying this particular issue. As we progress, I'm sure there will be a lot of things, policies, regulations, knowledge for us to unpack for the benefit of this August. Thank you very much.
Thank you for the introduction, Corna. It's great to be here. This is my second Afres conference. Last time was in Nairobi. I was actually still a student at the time. I'm from the International Real Estate Business School in Regensburg. And the way I approached the whole topic was I was part of a seminar and wrote a seminar paper about affordable housing, and that really sparked my interest in the whole topic. And I then decided to also write my master thesis about affordable housing in Namibia, so I chose a specific country. And when I first started my research, first started thinking about, housing in general, I thought, what actually is affordable housing? And this is also where I want to touch on what you just said here, is that affordable housing, I think the most frequently or most common definition is that it shouldn't exceed 30% of household income. But in a world in which so many people live in informal settlements, informal living conditions in general, where there's poverty all over the continent, that definition is just severely limiting. And the United Nations then extended the focus to housing adequacy instead of just affordability, and said that it's not just about whether someone can afford a place, which a lot of people can't, but that it's about so much more. It's about habitability, it's about location, infrastructure, cultural appropriateness, and so on. And I think that's something that we definitely need to keep in mind when we talk about affordable housing, especially on this continent here, is that just talking about finance is severely limiting, and that we definitely need a lot of more innovative solutions when it comes to affordable housing. Yeah, thank you very much.
I am a professor. I've been teaching real estate for a while, doing research in that for a long time also. I taught my students about affordable housing in America, and I just developed an interest of doing research in affordable housing a couple of years ago. And when I was reading through different papers, I realized that a lot of the things that we do in America for affordable housing may not be applicable to a lot of other countries. Because I teach my students about something we have in America is called Section 8 housing, where the government pays a portion of your rent. So I was looking at housing in Asia and Africa, and I thought that would be interesting to see how all these methods that we use in America, how can we change them, or how can we mold them to be applicable to other countries, maybe in some way. So that is what I am doing my focus of research on, and I may be calling you on your grant that you just offered, that we can try to collaborate together. I can maybe call on you for that grant. Maybe talk after the session, because this is something of my interest. I would like to work on this. So that's how it all started. I met Ola last year, and we're talking about it. Is it one session or something on the shore? That would be a good networking opportunity for me. And I also want to learn how affordable housing is going in Africa. So I'm here more as a student, I guess, than a professor. Thank you.
Ability to increase these particular housing stocks that we're looking at. Government came up with various policies and regulations. One of them is National Housing Policy, which actually walk around, gives the strategies on housing delivery, affordable housing delivery for all the people within the country. The NMRC, Nigerian Mortgage Refinancing, which was set up in 2013, basically was to increase funding, because when we are talking about affordability and affordable housing, there are no houses you can build with just by looking at the building and conjoin a figure of things you want the building to do. You have to put in investments. So, and people who are investing in Nigeria in housing, those are private developers, we're not actually looking at this side of government in the ways. Why? Because they source funding from capital markets. And then when you look at the digits, there is no way you could invest such in housing and be able to break even, particularly for affordable housing. You won't be able to pay the bills. So the essence of mortgage refinancing company was to deepening the mortgage lending institution in Nigeria, create more microfinancing outfits, and they are refinancing mortgages. So meaning that from there, they were able to increase the housing affordable stocks in Nigeria because NMRC basically was looking at reducing the interest rates, which were before the advent of NMRC, you have, it is 2 digits. We're talking of almost 15 to 20%. So how can you sustain this? So by the time they now came on board, it's now within the region of 5 to 12, between the region of 5 to 12%. We are looking at the possibility of a single digit, but this is a lot of improvements from what used to happen in Nigeria. Now, you can be rest assured that instead of having 5 to 12 years, 5 to 7 years for you to make a repayment, you now have close to 20, 25 years for your repayment on the loans you must have gotten from most of these mortgage houses. In addition to this, government equally needed to bring in on board PPP, private partnership initiatives. And in bringing these people on board, you have to be able to entice them. Either you want to look at the possibility of tasks, holidays, or giving them density bonuses on some of the things they intend to do. So with these, you can now have the additional hands on board for you to be able to improve and increase the affordable housing stocks in Nigeria. In addition to that, we equally have slum upgrading. Through the initiatives of UN Habitat, collaborating with Nigerian governments, some of the areas were designated, and then experiences and experiment was carried out in some of those areas, which proved to be quite successful, as most of those places happens in Lagos, in Abuja, and some other organizations of government that are actually trying to key into government initiative with respect to creating stocks, increase the stocks in affordable housing, look at the possibility of bringing in developers, give them chunks of land, and then with a proviso that you must have certain percentage, close to about 30 to 40% of affordable housing in your development initiatives. So this actually proved right, but in some of these issues, there are still what we call ongoing business, because there are things that you discover as you progress. You realize that there are certain things you need to tie the knot and be able to ensure that these developers you are bringing in are not converting what you're giving to them for their own benefits. You must recognize that once you remove the land parts of the land component out of the issues we're discussing, you can be rest assured that affordability is something we can all achieve. But it is still key, and in some of our African countries, land is a very, very critical issue that we still need to see how we can work around the issue. Thank you.
In America, when land is an issue, what we mostly are starting to do is create multi-family homes. So is that something that's been considered or doing it? Nigeria, like making a building which can accommodate 5 or 6 families, but separate.
Yeah, that is something that can be considered, but currently it's not being done.
Yes, because this is what we're pushing in bigger cities like New York and Chicago. One thing is partnering with the private companies that you're already doing. That's what we do also in America. Pair up with private companies, give them tax breaks with the same thing, telling them that you have a certain percentage of affordable housing in the building. And then for that they were given rights of having more apartments than everybody else has, so giving giving them some kind of leverage in addition to tax breaks. So there are a lot of things that given, and it's very successful in New York and Chicago. I'm taking these two names is because they are the biggest and most congested cities. So that is something that they have done.
I want to bring Don in, and obviously as a developer, right, and I just want you to share your experiences, right? You're in the affordable housing space, and we're talking about huge shortages, right? So from your experience, right, as a developer, how can we bridge that gap?
Like I shared with this one. Actually, right now we are still negotiating with the ministry. I think this only way is the public and the private partnership. And also, especially, I think right now the government should be play the main role about this one. Right now we are talking about the affordable housing project. Because it's a medium above. Actually, the developer, you can invest everything because they have a lot of the profit about this one. But affordable is really the government should play the main role. I think based on our experience, the first thing should be considered about the tax breaks. It's like the exemption or tax-free for this kind of affordable housing project. Secondly, is about the infrastructure. So I think this is the big challenge about this one. And secondly, I think why the government need to play the main role, the policies and the regulations, and also working on the economies. I think right now, if you stay in Zambia, recently our big challenge is the load shedding. So let me give you an example. This is how affect the affordable. Because our price on the brochure, that price, I think it's 3 years ago, based on that time, the material, everything, we make this price. And right now, we're facing the big challenge. You know why? Because the load shedding, all the construction materials rise, but it's not like before. Some material is already double, and some material is triple. So that is mean if we continue use this price to sell the affordable houses, we're going to lose money.
So I want to introduce, before we're almost rounding up, I want to introduce more around inclusivity and communities, and I want to bring Anna just to hear her comments on that. And how can we ensure that communities, ensure that affordable housing developments are more inclusive, and how they address the needs of marginalized populations. So, because for example, if you look at like South Africa where I live, right, you find out that a lot of what we call affordable housing is so far away from every amenity, and far from work, far from amenities, and is just pretty much on the outskirts of town, and obviously that also impacts the livability of these properties, right? And I want Anna to come in on that and share your experiences and comments around that.
I was thinking actually about this panel, which is problems and solutions for affordable housing. And I think the first step towards finding solutions is actually understanding what the problem is. And I think that is where lots of governments, especially a lot of countries, the housing sector in a lot of places fails. And if you look at Libya, actually I'd like to ask you a question here. What percentage of Namibia's urban population do you think resides in informal living conditions? Any numbers? Any others? 67%. 67%. And if you think about what is affordable housing, then getting bank loans, these people often have no income, very low income, or very irregular income. So no financial institution will give them a loan, which is absolutely clear because it's very risky for them. And so the imperative there is to find solutions that then work for these people. And I mean, Namibia, or the Namibian government over the years, especially since independence in 1991, it's a very young country, has introduced a lot of housing programs, a lot of housing initiatives. One was the decentralized build together program, which was very successful actually, probably the program, which was initiated in 2015, and then also the National Housing Enterprise housing programs. And the problem there was that the housing that was produced by these programs, with the exception of the decentralized build together program, was still completely unaffordable for those it intended to serve. And the national housing policy that the UAE has, the first one was introduced in 1991, which was then reviewed in 2009, and the second review happened last year in 2023. And what is quite interesting there is you can really observe the shift from the government-led provision of housing to diversifying housing provision. And so you need to focus on, okay, what kind of affordability levels do I have? And you have high income, they're fine. And then you have middle income, those are normally served by the private sector, normal private sector developments, which is what you do essentially. And then there's a huge percentage of the population, about 87%, that belong to the ultra low and low income bracket. And what is highly beneficial now and also great is that organizations that are more community driven, such as the Shackrollers Federation of Namibia, the support NGO of the Namibia Housing Action Group, and also others have been gaining a lot more prominence in the housing provision mechanisms. And essentially what they do is they go to communities, they collect data, and that is the first step. What am I dealing with? What are the demographics within a certain community? What are household income levels? Are there women-headed households, male-headed households? How many children are there? Are there people who have disabilities, for example? And then you deal with the problem accordingly. And then the second fact, or the second step they conduct is to actually involve communities in planning. So they host planning workshops, also at the university, which is highly beneficial, so they get students to actually join these planning efforts. And so this then enables that housing that is then constructed is not disconnected from actual needs of these people in the communities. And the third step is then actually the building, the construction of the houses, which is done by the people themselves. So that I think is great is that lots of these groups are headed by women, which is brilliant. They've got some very, very incredible people working for them. One woman called Mama Edith, who I had the pleasure of speaking to a while ago, and they really do help communities and low-income earners in that regard. And just before my answer gets too long, there's one thing I'd also like to mention. In 2019, the president actually declared the housing crisis a humanitarian crisis in Namibia. So that also shows that housing is not just about housing, it also has many cross-linkages with a lot of other developmental issues such as poverty, economic empowerment for development. And what he also said, though, is there was a need to eradicate informal settlements. And that, I think, is a huge problem because you can never eradicate informal settlements as long as you have inequalities in the country. And so that is also why the work of the Shackrollers, for example, is so important because they actually empower those in the lowest income brackets to transition into more formal living conditions. It's never going to be a quick process, it's going to be even a slow one, but things just don't happen overnight. But it's better to do something than nothing.
Let's just get some questions from the audience, and we're just going to close perhaps in the next 7 minutes or so.
I come from a background where I've been involved in real estate. The first Zambian to have qualified as a graduate in this country. And we have had seminars where we meet with quantity. We meet with architects, quantity surveyors, allied professions, where we even produced reports which are still gathering dust in our offices or even in government offices, where we say, whom are you targeting?
The developers considered using other materials, building materials like straws. You know that in Africa, we have this mentality that it has to be brick and mortar. So I met a lady in Saudi Arabia last December. She actually is from Ukraine. In spite of the war that is going on in Ukraine, they are producing straws in caves, and they are looking for people to buy the straws that can take up buildings. So if we consider alternate sources of, alternate materials for building, we can actually be able to bring down the prices?
Thank you. Because of the time, I think I will conclude with for the developer. I think our colleagues and today so many people mentioned about affordable. But I think this is a complicated thing. But I think it's today's what's the meaning for this conference? We have shared the ideas, we find the solutions. I think for me, I'm here today. So I want to hear the ideas, the solutions. Then we'll know how to do it. I think also we also partnership with everyone, whatever the government, NGOs, and everyone. Actually, for us, we really want to do affordable houses for the people. They really can change their living condition through everyone. Yeah, because for the individual, it's very hard to change this situation. I think working together, we can change this one. Thank you.
Some of the people that actually make submissions have said, we need to look at all those issues. Let's have what we call a paradigm shift. We cannot be doing things the same way and expect a new result. We must look at the concept of the people who are trying to find solutions to their problem. Poverty is a problem in this continent. No matter how affordable you look at it, there are people who cannot afford that affordable. We have to factor that into it. So that readily comes to mind when you say we need to look for other materials that we can use to build houses. Another innovative idea being handled in Nigeria by Abuja, the seat of the government, is that government have decided to give chunks of land to developers, but they ensure that, one, you need to provide infrastructure, road, power, and all those things must be within that particular place because you are not paying for the price of that land. So, and that, for you to be able to do all those ones, they give a 30% inclusion. You must have affordable housing within that particular place. If adequately implemented, and then we supervise to ensure that people work within the ambience of the law, I think we'll go a long way. Thank you very much.
Yeah, just closing remark from me as well. I think we can all agree that no matter where you look, whether it's Namibia, whether it's Zambia, whether it's Nigeria, affordable housing problems are definitely there, and they're immense in some countries more than in others. But you can also see that there are very promising solutions. But now the most important thing is actually capitalizing on different methods of implementing these solutions. And that's also why conferences like this is so great, where you can actually connect with other people, learn from other best practices, and hopefully apply them as well. Thank you very much.
My humble opinion, I think we should be more focused on communities as smaller as we can, so looking at each community and what can they afford. And as Francois just mentioned, that's what the point I was making earlier, that we cannot look at America or Europe and say, okay, this one applies here, 20%, 30% here. So we have to look at each community, and smaller the better. And then based on that, based on their affordability, we have to create something. Because we talk about material, cheaper things, all that comes if you can afford it. So I think we have to go smaller, because the data that we get is for a bigger segment, maybe for the whole city.
Our photographer is here.